Hello and welcome to the Yerky Boys. May the Kandrona shine and strengthen you. My name is Will.
My name is Jonathan.
And we are the Yerky Boys. Yeah. How are you doing today, John?
Listen, I would just like to formally apologize to you and all the listeners because last week we had some audio issues and I think we fixed them, but my audio was not up to snuff, and that may have reflected poorly on me since I was maybe a little justifiably ornery last week. But the two things together may have given the listeners a less than positive picture of who I am. And I don't want that to be the takeaway from this podcast. I want people to know that I am a good, beautiful person with a warm soul.
Right.
And today,
Jonathan the Magnificent.
That's what they call me. And today I have eaten a salad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm having some coffee now, so I'm in a good headspace.
Oh, excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
So I'm really excited to put the past behind us and move on to a bigger and brighter future in the form of today's book and all future discussions.
Right. Now, my audio quality is going to continue to be at this level, and I'm going to be a piece of shit who just got out of bed.
Yeah.
That's
yours is great.
Yeah. It's fine.
Yours is great. Yours is fantastic.
Well, thank you.
How are you, by the way? I remembered I'm supposed to ask that back when someone says it.
That was more just kicking it off because I kind of had a feeling you wanted to do maybe a little apology.
You really are very intuitive, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't that hard. You seemed pretty upset about it.
I was upset. But no, I mean, it's behind us.
It's behind us now. We don't have to worry about it now.
The important thing is it happened on a book that wasn't that good.
Right. Oh, well, I mean, what will people do if they can't hear about their skunks in high quality?
I mean, hopefully, I'm saying this now after the fact because hopefully people will just listen to it and not even notice. And I wouldn't want to say it. It wasn't so bad that I wanted to warn people in the beginning, because I feel like there's a chance that maybe they would just look past it. If you're listening on your phone or in the car or something, it might not even occur to you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I probably would have made a quick mental note and then I would have forgotten all about it. I listened to it and it just wasn't a big deal to me, but
yeah,
I can't speak for everybody.
Well, now that we've made it a big deal,
right,
we can move on.
It'll never come up again. Now, I actually did have something that I wanted to bring up from last book before we move into this book. It's not about the podcast, and it's also not meaningful here, but it's something that I forgot to do. Which was last time the dedication page said that the book was dedicated to Alexander and someone named Max Leach with 2 X's on the Max. Now, I did not look up who these two people are.
I think I used that in my drain once.
I cannot help but think, if Visser 3's human morph, right? Let's say he was running in local politics and he needed a name. I feel like Max Leach is just a perfect over-the-top supervillain type name for him to go by here.
Max Leach. Yeah. Maybe that's a little nod, a subtle nod from the Animorphs. We know you're reading this, Max Leach.
Yeah, could be.
Because they're writing these dedications, right?
Right.
I was confused. Why doesn't it say Marco on the front cover?
That's true. Yeah. The android by, who's this Applegate person? Marco Applegate? Thought he couldn't tell us that.
Yeah, it's kind of a contradictory. It's kind of messing with the fiction there, but that's okay. Well, I'm glad that so did you figure out who these people are? I thought that was
No,
your
no,
mission.
I didn't look that up. I just
Oh,
saw Max Leach and was like, this has to be commented on. Yeah, that was my
okay.
mission at first, and I didn't bother.
Okay, great. So, well, what are we going to get the dedication on this book? I mean, we're not
I,
there yet, obviously. We have at
we're
least 20 minutes before the dedication
we
page.
actually do have to. The dedication on this book is to the regular people and Erek King, who we do have to talk about.
Oh, I just
Actually,
read I've got the Seropedia open here.
hmm
Now that we know what that is. And
yes.
yeah. Talk about this because I just glanced at that and it maybe cleared some things up for me.
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember, I think it was book 4. There was like a thing on the cover that said there's a contest to get your name in an Animorphs book, right?
Yeah,
Um,
a
but that
dream.
con yeah, but that contest had a winner, and the winner was Eric King, and so he got to be he. There's a character in this book named after him,
Named
uh,
after
and,
him.
named after him, and he's a real person, I guess, who won the contest. Which I mean, I don't not too many spoilers, but like I just want people to keep in mind. Imagine that you were a fan of this series and you won a contest and you expect okay some character is going to get named after me. There's probably going to be like if this was a TV show and there was like a like episode of the week. Oh, you get to be on the show and then you're on for 10 seconds.
You're
That's
either
probably what
Juan or
I'm
Terry.
expecting. Right. You're either Juan or Terry. That's what I would have been expecting. I just want you to keep that expectation in mind as we see what was done with Eric King in this book, I think.
Yeah, let's also point out that Erek is spelled Erek.
Yes.
This is not a spelling of Eric I have ever seen before in my life.
This is the only place I've ever seen it. So,
So I don't know if this is like from a specific country or ethnicity, or if Eric's parents were just very creative or what. But
yeah, no idea.
this is like when millennials name their kids like Jaden with an X in there or whatever Zoomer name bullshit they come up with.
God, I hate those
I'm
millennials.
so glad millennials don't listen to this. Zoomers only here. If you don't know
That's
about
right.
TikTok dances, get the fuck out.
That's right. We're all about that. Riz is the new thing now, I guess.
Oh yeah, W Riz AF.
Here.
No cap.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
um, Now, also, the cover of this one has a
Yeah.
new Marco model, which we'll talk a little bit about. But so I, as a kid, I knew about the Eric King thing, and I knew about the new Marco model thing, but somehow those two things got conflated in my head, and so for a long time as a child, I thought somehow that this kid on the front cover was what Eric looked like, and so in the books I picture him as looking like this, and so he basically just kind of looks like Marco again in my head.
That's
Now
fun when
that
things like that happen.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense because Eric doesn't turn into a spider. Spoilers: Marco turns into a spider on the cover of this book, but
Spoilers.
it's on the cover.
Yeah. It's
What
a
do you
spoiler.
want?
No, you're right. It's a spoiler. You were right. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, okay. Um,
Did you ever like when I was a kid, I feel like I would sometimes picture the people in books as like people I knew or like characters from TV shows, not even like consciously, just like I mean, like a cartoon character would pop up in that position for some reason.
yeah, that happened on occasion. Definitely. I told you earlier, didn't I, about how I imagined Tobias as looking like Iago for a while from Aladdin?
I don't recall
I
this.
think I said this in book 3 because they're both red birds, and so in my head there was like a period of time.
Yeah, sure. I like it.
Yeah.
There's a kid I went to summer camp with who I think is still Ron Weasley to me forever.
Wait, so you imagine this real kid at summer camp? Oh, I see. But when you read Harry Potter, you imagined him as the kid at summer
I
camp.
think he was
Okay.
the only like red-haired person I ever met. It's like that's the picture that was in my head.
Okay, okay. That makes sense to me.
I'm sure I had it for Animorphs too, but I can't remember any. They're pretty specific in the descriptions of these. Plus they're on the covers, so that kind of helps.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah, the short hair thing. I mean, are we going to talk about the model specifically, or do you want to talk about that later?
I mean, we might as well just bring it up now because it's going to be like a maybe not a running gag in the book, but a running gag for the first like
It's a
third of the book.
jogging gag at the least.
Yeah, yeah. But they got. Do you remember the specific details of this? But basically, what happened was they got a new Marco model, but the new Marco model for the covers had short hair and Marco has long hair. So in the books, they have him get a haircut to match.
Yeah.
Um, there's more details to it, but I don't quite
I
remember them
thought
anymore.
it was also it doesn't say it here on Seropedia. That sounds like that is the whole thing. But for some reason in my head I thought maybe Tobias like it also had somewhat longer hair and they were like we shouldn't maybe I just made that up
No, I
like
think that was you brought that up earlier. I think that was like Tobias was supposed to be blonde, and then they made him like dirty
right.
blonde browner. Yeah.
I guess I that was my own speculation where I was thinking maybe they were like I mean I Tobias's hair I guess wasn't as long as Marco's, but I thought maybe they didn't want to have two kids with longer hair or something.
Mm. Yeah, no, Marco had like actual like long hair. He did a thing in book 5 or something where he was like hiding his like full on like 90s headphones under his hair or something in class.
Yeah, when you look at him on that gorilla book, he was definitely he had
Yeah.
like shoulder length hair pretty much or
Yeah,
neck
yeah.
length, I don't know. I don't know what length hair is. That knowledge is lost to me to the ages. Uh the I mean, I don't know where to start. I have so many things to say before we even open chapter 1.
Yeah, what do you want to say before we begin on this here?
Well, okay. First, I guess the cover itself,
Uh-huh.
it's another good. There's a horrible half spider, half Marco.
Oh yeah, I like it because his arms go out. I like the way he's kind of got this big, I don't know, caveman looking posture as he's turning into the spider, and that works well with the pedipalps turning coming out of his chin.
Don't say that word, please,
Kind
ever
of like
again.
a Thanos looking face in the middle here.
Yeah, it is. It's all so strange. Also, seeing the kid on this cover is just a baby. Like reading these books, I know
Hmm.
they're young, but the things that they endure are so adult, and then you just look at this face that looks like a toddler. This is like
Yeah,
a little first grader, this boy. Like I don't even think that boy is 13. That looks like a 9-year-old to me.
I really can't tell at that point. They're all kids.
Then we've got and by the way, I mean, I think I think all the covers are kind of like this. And I sort of tried to mimic that for our logo for the podcast, but this book specifically kind of evokes our logo's background. Just like orange
Mm.
clouds is basically what that is.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the quote here fear has a new name, dot, 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 dot. There's actually 4 dots.
Yeah, there's always 4 dots. I took note of that.
Yerk. you thought that quote was finished, but no. They're like, fear has a new name. We're gonna tell you what it is. It's Yerk.
Yeah,
That's
it's not that new at this point. This is the 10th book.
it's also just I mean, that's a pretty dumb one. Is there an inside quote? I thought there was usually another quote on the
There
inside.
is. It's along came a spider. Dot 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 dot.
Great. That's great.
Yeah.
And now this is just again. I'm sorry. I'm on the Seropedia, but when I
Hmm.
was confused by this little, it says here at the top. I mean, I don't know if I'm misunderstanding or misremembering this. It says that this is the third book narrated by Marco. Okay, because he
Because
had
of
a
megamorphs.
Megamorphs.
Hmm.
Then it says, and his first book as sole narrator. Was there another narrator in the other Marco book besides him? What's that
No
referring
way.
to? I don't understand why it says that.
No, we just read that. That definitely wasn't. We would have said something.
What was the first Marco book called? Which one was that?
The Predator.
The Predator. I'm gonna see if I go to the Predator, because they list all the narrators. It just says
Yeah.
Marco in the description.
Narco.
Freaking Narco.
Yeah.
Narcos. Ooh, they should make a parody of Narcos, the Netflix show called Marcos.
That could be the Animorphs TV show that everyone's been clamoring for.
Anyway, that must be a mistake. I don't know why it says that. That was confusing to me.
Yeah, Seropedia editors, please listen to our podcast. We'll whip you into shape.
For real. And finally, also, I just want to say this came out August 97, which means it was our birthday book.
Aw, a birthday book.
It's a birthday book.
That's nice. I like that.
Okay, I'm ready. Ready to
All
move
right.
on to the dedication page.
Yeah, we don't need that. Because dedication page we already talked about.
We did that. Right. Sorry. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
go ahead then.
Beginning this book. Before we even start on this plot, I love Marco's intro to this book.
Yeah.
Right. This is one of the best ones yet, I think. Or he just comes in and says, "People call me Marco the Magnificent, Marvelous Marco, the Amazing Marco, and of course all the girls just call me Gorgeous." And he goes on like this for about a full page, basically.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. First page of the book, and I was like, I had a big grin on my face. I was having a good time. I was like, I'm in good hands. Marco's back at the helm.
That's right.
This is what I'm here for, baby. I'm loving it. I'm loving just talking about his hairdresser, Charisse.
Charisse the hairdresser.
His
That's
stylist.
Right. Charisse, he says. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said, apparently she told him, now that he got his haircut, his cuteness quotient has risen from a 9 to a definite 10.
Yeah, and that cuteness, I'm going to bring that up later, because there's some deeper meaning there. I discovered in this book.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested in this profound analysis you have about the cuteness.
Oh, you're gonna like it. You're gonna like the cute analysis. You probably picked up on it too.
Okay.
We'll see.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So the intro to this book, Marco and Jake are gonna sneak into a concert as dogs. Now Jake is all like, Marco, we can't do that because that's more, but he wants to do it. So he's like, well, if you're going to do it anyway, then I guess I got to come along to, watch your back. So, they morph dogs. They go to this concert. They run around. They do a whole bunch of dog shenanigans. And as they're running around, they notice this kid who used to go to their school, Erek, from the contest. And he's passing out flyers for the sharing. But he doesn't smell. And this is crazy for a dog, right?
Yeah, he doesn't have any smell. Like he doesn't
any smell at all.
Smell. Yeah, like there's no odor.
Right, no odor at all. And there should be. So I don't know how much you have to say about this concert scene.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a pretty good concert. I mean, I think we might as well mention now who's performing at this concert.
Oh yeah, please do.
It's 9 Inch Nails,
right?
Alanis Morissette,
right?
And The Offspring.
Yeah, that's right.
What a triple header! In what world? What's the modern equivalent of this? It's like if I said, yeah, I'm going to a concert. It's like Chance the Rapper and Beyonce and the White Stripes or something. Like it doesn't make sense.
I asked my kid what bands are popular these days and just put them in.
And like it's not like it's not like Coachella or something. Like why are there 3 bands sharing one evening?
Yeah. And it's so Marco, when he's describing the people at the concert, he's like, oh, there's like hippies and deadheads. There's also like punk rockers with like wild hair. There's also, the like suburbanite parents or whatever. Like, what is this
This
concert.
is just what kids imagine a concert is like, I guess,
That's
before they
true,
can
yeah.
go to it.
Every concert trope is all there because yeah.
Yeah, it's all of them. Now, Marco does joke that maybe Alanis may be a controller.
Yeah, yeah. So it's his responsibility to find out.
I did wonder what some of her songs might sound like if she indeed were a controller.
Oh yeah? Oh yeah? What might they
I
sound
mean,
like?
what if she was like,
I want to know.
'cause I got one yerk in my noggin
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and the other is in a pool.
That's a really good song.
Yeah, it could be something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
You
Are there
never
any
know.
you have any others?
Well, I mean, imagine
Uh-huh.
for instance if she
Right.
was if you were
Mhm.
like, "Man, I feel like there's something weird in my head and I don't have control of my thoughts. I don't know why." Alanis might be like, "You got a yerk."
Yeah. You're right.
It's a little
She might be like that.
yeah, yeah,
I
she
mean,
might.
listen, if she is a controller, then we ought to know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
Uh
cool. Yeah.
it yeah,
Also, there's some good. Yeah, like you said, the dog shenanigans. I thought Marco's getting kind of freaky. Like he's
yes.
like this girl's. He's letting this girl pet him while her boyfriend watches, and he's like
Mhm.
into it.
Oh yeah, he's into it. Yeah, Marco acquires an Irish setter because, as he says, girls love Irish setters.
Yeah.
He does say the part.
Yeah, it's his evil laugh.
Yeah.
I also was a little bit concerned because I felt like a dog's ears could get damaged at a concert without protection.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But I guess they morph back and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess it's fine. And I
Does
don't
that
know if they
mean
went all the way in even.
if you had like tinnitus or something, if you morph in and out, does it clear up?
Potentially. Potentially.
But like what about like a virus, like a disease?
Yeah, disease I'm not so sure about, but if you have like long-term damage to your body from before you started morphing and it's not genetic, if it's the result of an injury, you can just fix it by gaining morphing powers.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
crazy. All right. I guess
Yeah.
that's all I got to say.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, so they're all together trying to figure out like what is going on with this kid uh Eric um who doesn't smell. What's going on? And they're all like finding because they're like, oh, he doesn't go to our school anymore. He transferred out. We got to find him. So they're all like trying to figure out these increasingly complicated ways. And Cassie's like, oh, well, we could look him up in the phone book. So, okay, sure. um, so they find 6 different kings it could be, and Marco and Cassie and Tobias spend the night scoping them out to find him. Because Jake has a paper due. And Rachel's got something with her dad. Next day, we don't get to see them do this. We immediately smash cut to the next day where Jake is like talking to Marco in the cafeteria, right? And Marco is trying to write the same paper that Jake did. There's like a lot of running jokes, or not running, but a lot of jokes about how Marco is being
They're
irresponsible with
galloping.
his paper. Yeah, exactly. But they did find him, and they did find his house. So Tobias has been spying him out. We also find out that Erek was at Marco's mom's funeral, which apparently a number of kids did, which is kind of weird to me. But
Yeah.
like just like a little note that he was there. So after school, Marco and Tobias fly out to Eric's house, and they see Erek walking home, and some bullies are chasing him, and Erek trips and gets hit by a bus. But when he gets hit by the bus for a split second, he like flickers, and they see he's some kind of like robot or something, and then he's back. what's up?
A lot of things have just happened.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure where to break up these points, so I figured let's just get to the point where Erek's some kind of robot, and we can talk about all the talking they did.
Yeah, I love to talk about all the talking that they did.
I mean, there's some good stuff.
Yeah, there's some good stuff. I mean, Marco has his funny little observations, and his usual personal introductions of all the other characters, which I did. He's almost making fun of the other Animorphs books sometimes, which I think is funny, and it works because you have those other books that aren't as funny. Like if every book was a Marco book, I don't think it would play as well.
It's probably true, yeah.
So it's a good contrast.
Yeah.
I was wondering why they don't just look Erek up on Facebook. Feels like that would be a simple way to track him down.
Now, notably, they do have Axe. Someone suggests that maybe Axe can, quote, tap into the internet and get past all the security buffers and locate him, unquote.
Yeah, how does that work?
Well,
what does that mean?
Clearly, K.A. Applegate doesn't know how the internet works either at this point in time, so...
Like everyone, like once the internet existed, all of us were just on there already somehow, somewhere in there.
Maybe she means like we're hacking into school records or something.
Sure, because I'm sure the school has all their records online in 97.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Now let's talk a little bit about this paper.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about this paper. I love this paper.
Marco, I really relate to him in this book because I also really don't like school or doing work.
Right.
And also would do all of my work at the very last minute, as we've discussed off pod. Which is a cool way to say, just like in real life, like a normal person.
It's a little cooler than saying IRL.
Yeah, off pod. That's cool.
Yeah.
Right now we're on
not
pod.
Lame.
No, there is a little. They kind of skirt around a couple of swear words in this book. They mention bull a couple times.
They do, yeah.
Total bull.
Yeah, use of total bull in writing a paper or whatever he said.
And my favorite thing is the title he comes up with for his paper, which Marco is writing before he has a subject.
Yes, at lunch before the subject. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. He does not have a topic for the paper. Yes.
What is this assignment? Like, I don't know. What is an English paper that you are to write a paper, but we didn't assign you the topic? Like, what? I don't understand.
I mean, this is a middle school paper. There were a lot of times in middle school where they would say something like, write a paper about like vague generic statement, and you could just kind of pick anything or something.
I don't know if I ever had that. I feel like it could be like, choose a topic like in this category or like on a book of your choice or something. But it's just like, I don't know. They just said, write a paper. I'm just gonna... Anyway, the title he comes up with for it is The Use of Rhetoric to Obscure a Lack of Content, which I think could be the subtitle for this podcast.
I agree. I like it. I love it. It could be the subtitle for most podcasts.
Yeah, it could be the subtitle for a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
It's a nice phrase.
One of the best skills you can have. And it hasn't happened yet, but I should point out that despite finishing this, Marco says approximately 9 seconds before it's due. Marco gets a B on this paper.
Yeah. Yeah, go.
That's pretty damn good.
Well, honestly, clearly Marco is smart because even that phrase I just said is honestly a pretty great phrase especially for a 13-year-old.
It is quite good.
Yeah, the use of rhetoric to obscure a lack of content. I mean, you could probably bullshit enough to get a B on that if he can write. If he's good at writing rhetoric, he's good at that. It's not just a concept; he's mastered the art.
That's true. He's 3 pages in, doesn't know what he's talking about yet.
Yeah, imagine if Marco had Chat GPT.
Wow.
He'd be living on Easy Street.
He should get Axe to make a chat GPT for him.
Yeah,
So he
really?
doesn't have to do homework.
Why doesn't he just ask Axe and be like, "It's a human game. You have to solve these math problems for me."
That's right. Yeah, you could do. Yeah. The problem is that Axe would turn into a thing with like, he would be doing like hyper calculus or something to solve 2 plus 2.
That's fine. He'd just get Goodwill Hunting again, and it would be all work out.
That's right.
Okay, now I agree with what you were saying about Erek at Marco's mom's funeral. They kind of explain it later, but the fact that they mentioned other kids went too. Maybe it's just a small town, and no, but it's not a small town. It's freaking it's LA or something.
I guess I could, because they're all in his class and they're trying to support their class, but it's just weird. I wouldn't have gone to my classmate's mom's funeral.
Yeah, not like his friends, just some kids.
Yeah, and like that is kind of like it's not like Erek was his close friend. They just knew each other, and so I think she didn't want it to be like that weird. Like you wouldn't be like, why was he there until right this very moment? Because everybody was there or something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Strange.
It is just strange they threw in the detail about other kids. It would be fine if it was just Erek, but
yeah. I could, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it would be too suspicious if it had just been him, and you'd be asking, why has Marco never asked this question before? But
yeah, it would be weird to be suspicious of this character who we introduced as giving out the sharing pamphlets.
Well, but I mean, like the fact that Marco hadn't been suspicious of him before, right? You'd be like, why is it the sharing pamphlet? Why weren't you always wondering this or something?
Okay.
I don't know.
He doesn't like priests, this guy. We know that. It says at the funeral he was shaking his head side to side, disagreeing with everything the priest said.
That's how I usually act in church.
I still, even with the later reveals, I'm not totally sure I understand that behavior. But
well,
I guess they just don't agree with our religion.
No, I think there's something. Whatever.
Maybe I'm missing something. You can tell me later.
Well, we'll talk about it when there's reveals, I guess. But there's also a scene in here where Marco almost gets killed by Peregrine Falcon when he's out with Tobias. He and Tobias are flying along, and Tobias is like, "Oh, by the way, you need to dodge in like 3, 2, 1," and then Peregrine Falcon shoots past where Marco was. Just like a random one tried to kill him. And and Tobias says some good bird junk around this point. He says, like, I know that bird. He's not as good as he thinks he is. And he also says to Marco, the way you were flying, he probably thought you were a big old clumsy duck.
Yeah. Classic bird zingers. He also says, always remember to look up, which would have been good advice for Taruk Makto.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had Googled this because I actually don't remember. I know he's called Taruk Makto. Was the thing just called Taruk or something? Or Makto? And once he conquers it, he's Taruk Makto? This is embarrassing.
And I should know this too because I started down the path of trying to learn Navi, but no, it might be Taruk.
It is the Taruk.
Yeah, I think it's true. Yeah. Because I do know that it literally translates to the guy who is capable of riding that thing. So I know that thing must have been part of that name.
Yeah, it's the Taruk or the Great Leonopteryx, which is the Earth name. I love that, and there's people listening to this who are just like, what the fuck are they talking about?
That's true.
I forgot what the Taruk was. That in book 7? Do they mean the Valik?
Yeah, that's right. The guy who rides the Valik around. You remember when Visser 3 did that?
No, we're talking about James Cameron's Avatar, which will come up again later on. So get ready.
It will come up quite a bit, and consistently.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. That's all I wanted to say. Go on.
Yeah, I mean this is basically it. Other than that, we just found out that Erek is he is the titular android, right?
Did we say the title of the book? You said it right.
Oh, maybe I did. The title of the book is The Android.
Great.
So, presumably, if you're reading this as a kid, you know that there's going to be an android. Also, on the back, it actually does just say that Erek is an android.
Yeah,
But it
this is
doesn't.
one. Unlike what say the other books, I couldn't avoid spoilers for this one.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
right there in the title.
Now, the nice thing about the back of this is that this is around the point where the summary on the back ends. Sometimes they just go way too far, but this one basically, like, it just says, oh, Erek is passing out flyers for the sharing, but he's not exactly human, and then it's called the android. So it
Okay.
doesn't spoil much. Now, I am curious, what were you think, like, you were like, okay, we got our android reveal. When you first read this, what were you thinking was going to be the deal with this android?
I mean, I really was not sure because robots are not a thing that the series has delved into
Mm-hmm.
up until this point. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess my assumption was that this was just a Visser 3. He somehow decided like, oh, if I, it's cheaper to have a robot and we don't have to have a stupid Yerk, and I'll use them to infiltrate the Animorphs or something. Some kind of Yerk plot was my assumption, but I really didn't know how that was going to play out.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'm just this will be a fun one when we get to the reveal for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh yeah, so, Marco, after seeing all this, Marco calls up Jake to get a meeting of the Animorphs. But he gets Tom on the line. And Mark invites Marco to the sharing water skiing trip, and up whatever at the lake or something. And he tells him to bring his dad along. Um, so I don't know if you remember earlier on when Marco's dad got the new, like, he got that software, and I was like, oh, he could be a target now. So we're kind of seeing that play out at this point. It looks like the Yerks are targeting Marco's dad because of his job. And Marco does eventually get Jake on the line and, like, explodes at him, and Jake has to kind of calm him down so he doesn't blow his cover. But they do end up setting up their meeting, which we'll get to. But I did just want to put a point on this. The stakes here are pretty real for Marco.
Yeah, I guess I'm pretty stupid because I don't
Okay.
really know that I even. I mean, it is definitely implied because he says like "bring your dad," but I definitely wasn't until later when they explicitly spelled it out. Didn't really connect the dots that they like cared about Marco's dad. I just thought it was a generic like Jake just always tells people to come to the sharing because that's his thing.
Well, it's weird because Marco has that whole, like, blow up at Jake where he's like, they're
Oh
targeting
yeah.
my dad now. I don't know.
Does he
Uh,
say it then? I thought he didn't say it until later.
no, like, right then he's like having a freak out at Jake, like, I'm not gonna let them take my dad or something. Maybe it's not as explicit that they're after him because of his job, or like maybe Marco's just freaking out because they said his
Oh,
dad
no, you're right. He
and
does
he's
say it.
triggered.
He
But
does say it. Those scumbags are after my father. Yeah, I guess I just forgot or wasn't paying attention.
yeah, you got to read more carefully.
Or maybe I just
Um,
thought he was saying from last time or something. I don't know, but
mm,
just
yeah,
generically. I
yeah.
did. Marco does have a really good little rage monologue.
Yeah, he does. I appreciate when he's thinking to himself, and he's like, "I'll kill Tom before I let them take my dad too." It's a great little moment.
Yeah. I mean, rage is addictive, I guess it's
Yeah.
sort of like a drug. Anger and hatred get you high. They get you high, but like any addiction, they hollow you out and tear you down and eat you alive.
hmm This actually has some thematic callbacks with the ending of this book, so we could keep that in mind here.
Yeah.
Marco's rage and his imagining violence against Visser 3 over and over till he feels empty and hollowed out or whatever.
Can I just say, look, I
hmm
know we all like Rachel and the bird.
Yeah, I
I
do.
think I think I might ship Rachel and Marco. Sorry.
Mm.
I think
Mm.
these two, Marco's got this rage he keeps deep down inside. He just doesn't let it out the way Rachel does. And
Yeah, yeah.
and they're always sniping at each other. I
There
just
is
feel
some
like
teasing.
there's a lot of tension between these two. I think there's something there.
I mean, it's not written that way, but you're not wrong to ship. Listen, if you like the, like, kids teasing each other,
Okay, let's maybe rephrase that.
Okay, but like if that's the trope that you know, this kind of enemies to lovers or whatever, where it's like, oh, they actually like each other. I
I
could
mean, come
see
on,
it.
yeah, that's the if you have an attractive man and a woman who are constantly making fun of each other all the time,
Hmm.
come on, that's the
Yeah,
way it goes. It's like they're gonna end up together. Just
yeah. Well, that's the trope, but there is
and
a
as all
good.
tropes,
Rachel takes
it's
a great
real.
shot at Marco at the beginning of this book over his hair that I quite like. I will say. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
where you know, they're talking about how Erek doesn't smell human way in the beginning, and Rachel says, well, you don't always smell human either, Marco, but maybe that's because you have a small monkey living on top of your head. And then she follows up with, next time you get a haircut, talk to me first.
They really do all give him shit for his short
Yeah.
hair, which looks like, if anything, it seems like the long hair is what you'd make fun of a kid for. He looks totally normal.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, these are kids. Kids are pieces of shit. He looks different now, and that's a good enough reason to go in.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
It's probably also like, Marco's usually the one being an asshole, so this is their
Yeah,
chance to get
that's
him.
true. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure we hammer home that those are the stakes on Marco's dad. That part's not that long, but so
Hammered.
y- yeah, hammered. So they all meet up. They ask Axe if he knows what's up. Axe has never heard of this kind of thing, right? He doesn't. He's like, well, Erek could be using a hologram, but I don't know, what the power source could be because it's, no Andalite or Yerk thing would be able to run the hologram like that from a body that small for that long. So he has no clue what this thing is. Um, and so they're like, well, if we get something with super different vision, like maybe bug vision, to see through the hologram, then that might work. So they're going to morph spiders, and they're going to go to that meeting that Tom invited Marco to, and turn into spiders and try to see if they can see through the hologram. Um, Axe has to be there because Axe might know what the hell Erek is if he looks at him, and they all draw straws to see who's going to go spider with Axe, and it turns out to be Marco is going to have to be the spider.
Yeah, literal straws, by the way. This is the
Literal
second
straws.
time in the series, I believe, they have drawn literal straws.
They do it a lot. I'm pretty sure at some point in the series, Axe calls it some kind of human ritual.
This is a thing that is in a fair amount of movies and TV shows that I don't know if anyone's ever actually done this in real life.
Mhm.
or if it were me, I would be like, well, let's just put all our names in a hat and pick one.
Yeah.
The literal straw drawing really feels like it's just for the benefit of the reader, is a little more suspenseful, I guess.
Yeah. Not that it's that. I mean, how could it's always the title character? Maybe it's when she doesn't have a good reason why it should be the title character, right? I need it to be Marco. I don't know why Marco would be the one.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds probably about right. Okay.
Now,
Yes, please.
I'm sure you're about to say what I'm about to say, which is that Marco's reaction to morphing this spider is your reaction to morphing this spider.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's right. It's horrible. It sounds horrible. I wouldn't take that straw. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a whole conversation between Marco and Cassie that sounds like something we would do, where Marco's like, I specifically said no insects, and Cassie's like, well, actually, insects
Oh
have
God.
3 body segments and 6 legs,
That
but
shit made me
arachnids.
sick.
Yeah, and Marco says, and this is I'm pretty sure this is a direct quote from you. Um, Marco says, "Go away, Cassie. Go away. Go away. Go away. I don't like spiders."
Yeah. Yeah, I did ghostwrite that line.
I think you've said that only with someone else's name instead of Cassie, probably mine.
Yeah. 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 Don't like it. Didn't like it. Marco's right. It's terrible. You don't even entertain the idea of maybe trying something else. There's not spiders. It's got to be a spider. I don't know. Doesn't seem like a good idea to me. But hey,
Well, they want some kind of bug with weird vision. I don't know why they can't use their old bugs.
you
In
gotta
fact,
get a new bug.
yeah, they got to get a new. She's got to put a new bug on the cover, I guess.
Although you could have gone with a bat for the cover, but I guess they're
That's
not really. They
true.
don't really do that for the. It's more spider centric, this book, but
Yeah, there's a lot more spiders going on here.
so I agree. I of course agree with Marco, but there is some other fun stuff in this scene. It's kind of continuing from the last book. Cassie seems to have shown some growth.
Hmm.
When she says to Tobias, like, it's fine. He's a hawk. He has a right to be a hawk. But then she also kind of guilt trips him for wanting to eat some baby possums she doesn't want him to eat.
Yeah. Now I kind of like that scene because when they all show up to meet, Mark is like, and Cassie is like, everyone's standing around. Oh, except Cassie, who's like looking in a burrow for some reason. She's just like, I think there's possums in that burrow.
Yeah. I thought the scene was going to be them like looking for their new morph, but it's just Cassie being a weirdo.
Yeah, that's right.
I also wanted to point out there's something. This happened in a couple books earlier, and I read it on Seropedia, but I didn't find the place to mention it. Didn't come up.
Hmm.
Marco says he hooked up with Jake to go to Cassie's farm. And Seropedia says that in the earlier books, the revised editions are over now. But in the books that they did revise, there were a couple times when they used the phrase hooked up with, and they changed those in later editions to make sure you knew they weren't hooking up.
Yeah, she wasn't hip with the lingo back then.
Or back then, I don't know if I think
Yeah,
you
maybe
could.
it wasn't.
I feel like even today you could say like, "Oh, let's hook up at the place." It depends on context,
Yeah.
But I
Too
guess
many people were writing weird fanfics and
they really wanted to make sure.
crack down on all that.
Now, are we going to talk about the mass now, or is that?
Oh yeah, we could, that's basically in this whole section. Because I didn't know how many times we needed to stop around the spider shenanigans because there's a lot of them. But yeah, the mass is pretty relevant because Axe just casually drops this bombshell, right? That like isn't important in any way here, but like he says when they morph into smaller animals like spiders, all of their extra mass from their regular body gets stored out in Z space. That's where it goes. And he said there's a possibility it's like billions to one or something like that. It's never going to happen, but it could happen that a spaceship traveling through zero space could slam into their mass and disintegrate it, and then they wouldn't have any more mass to morph back or whatever. Maybe they'd be dead. I don't know.
Yeah,
We don't know what would happen.
yeah, that's some fucked up, weird. I mean, this is like an explanation for a thing that I never really needed an explanation for.
Yeah. Yeah, and it raises further questions like if your mass is stored in zero space when you morph something small, then where do you get the mass when you morph something big? Did you put extra mass in zero space at some point?
Yeah, there's like a big storage locker all Andalites take from of
Yeah.
mass. That just a bunch of flesh and random bones and organs that can sort of become anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's really weird. And I mean, I still don't. Zero space is like it's like another dimension, kind of, or it's like going into
Yeah.
hyperspace or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's both
yeah.
those things. It's hyperspace but the opposite direction.
So
But it is another dimension, yeah.
it's not like this mass would be just like visible through a telescope. Like you could
No.
only hit it if you were traveling through Z space.
Yes, but Z space is the only way in which you can do faster than light travel. So every race that travels
According
the
to the
galaxy,
Andalites.
well, according to the Andalites, yeah.
There could be another way. They don't know.
I'm trying to think if it's ever because every other like regular race that travels across the galaxy uses zero space. I'm trying to think if the Elemist actually says anything about traveling not through zero space ever, or if the Elemist is just like, nah, I'm just kind of like everywhere, whatever. Fuck you. I think he's just everywhere, whatever.
Yeah, sounds right. Yeah. So
No, there's some kind of bullshit he does with moving shit around faster than light, not through Z-space. Whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is nobody can actually... Everybody uses Z-space.
great. Okay. It's settled then. Everyone loves Z Space. It makes perfect sense.
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so that was it was a nice little note for the Seropedia or for the Animorphs Visual Dictionary or something. Now we know how morphing works a little bit more and also a little
Yeah.
bit less.
Yeah, and this is kind of where I was pulling some of my speculation about how maybe you could morph clothing, is that like if you put the clothing mass in Z space and you were building out of the mass rather than out of the DNA, maybe that's how you could do it. Now that's not consistent with how morphing works, but it could have been consistent with how morphing works.
It's so funny that they call it mass. Like, I don't know. I'm picturing just like a Cronenberg blob
Yeah,
of flesh.
that's
In
what I
space.
picture too, basically. I'm not sure that's accurate, but it is what I picture.
Then, so why? Well, no, I forget what we established. If there's a bullet in you, it stays or it leaves.
Yeah, you can demorph. Yeah, if you're a big animal and you have a bullet in you, you can demorph and the bullet will like fall away.
But what if you're a human with a bullet, and does the bullet go to space, or does the bullet just fall out?
Presumably, it falls out, unless she says it doesn't because it's white clothing.
How does the morph know what's mass and what's not your mass?
You have to focus on it if it's not your DNA. It's like clothing. I don't know. I'm making this up.
I mean, I guess it's just whatever the morphing tech just reads the energy signals and non-sentient mass doesn't give off signals or something.
I don't listen. The more she explains it, the less sense it makes. That's the real problem.
If you gave the morphing tech to like a dog, could the dog morph? Or would it be too stupid to concentrate to do it?
It could.
Okay.
It would be too stupid to concentrate to do it, but it could do it sort of by mistake, sometimes accidentally. It just wouldn't know what the hell was going on and would be in a panic.
How are there's always more morph questions. There's something always comes up.
That's what makes it so good. Like, this is how you fill out 50 books worth of content, is that
That's right.
You're like, what the hell do I write my next book? What if a dog could morph? That'll be my next one.
Okay.
That's how you do it. Yeah. Oh, I did also a completely different topic here.
Sure. Love that.
Marco gets a little bit political here.
Oh, man.
Because, I don't know, in the late 90s, the should women be able to serve in the armed forces was like an actual topical question. And Marco weighs in on this here. Hard turn from what you were talking about, but I think it's time to leave Z-Space behind us for a
minute.
Yeah, and so this is what Marco says when he steps up to morph the spider. He says, "See, this is why guys and girls should not be in combat together. Because it's much harder for a guy to be a coward when some girl is watching. If it had just been Jake and Tobias, I'd have been weeping and groveling on the ground."
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
It was a great section. I'm glad you went back to it.
Yeah, there's a couple things that are stupider and sillier that need to be dealt with.
He's right. Marco just doesn't want to look like a chump in front of the ladies.
Yeah, absolutely not.
It's their fault.
Because Rachel's all gung-ho over here. She's all like, well, we could just hit Erek with another bus.
Yeah, that was funny too.
Yeah.
Let's just hit him with a bus.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Well, Rachel, this book maybe, not so different from most of the other ones, but I felt like there were a few more moments for the other characters who weren't the narrator in this, maybe than some other books. I feel like.
Yeah. No, they feel much more fleshed out. Some of the early books, I am reading them and I'm thinking like their characters are described as being what they are, but I'm not seeing that much of them yet.
Yeah.
But this you really do get everybody coming through.
We also get a little Jake is also kind of getting into bird stuff like Tobias when he says, "Gotta watch out, falcons rule, and don't diss falcons."
Yeah, yeah. Because after they acquire the spider, they all morph up to the lake, or they all fly out to the lake, which is when Jake does that. So I guess we can go up to the lake now, probably, right?
Let's go to the lake.
Yeah. So they fly out to the lake. Marco and Axe morph Spider, and we get a very gross sequence about becoming a spider. And
Yeah.
we get a couple chapters of spider shenanigans, which I don't know how much we need to talk about them, or if you just want to forget that that ever happened. Um,
Or I want to inflict them on our listeners and make
that's
them
fair.
experience what I did.
Yeah, see, I mean, personally, I'm not that bothered, but reading this and keeping you in mind, I'm just like, oh boy, you were probably not happy.
I mean,
And
it's
you
not.
usually read these like before bed, right? So you might have been having nightmares.
It's not much worse than it usually is, honestly.
Okay.
Like all the morphing is horrible, but just there are some moments like eyes were erupting out of my head like zits,
Yeah, yeah.
and legs shot out of me like I was a tube of toothpaste someone had stomped. And then we are introduced, or at least I was introduced to the term that you used earlier, pedipalps,
Right.
which are extra legs. Maybe Marco doesn't know what they are, but they're pedipalps, and I don't know either. So
Yeah, they're like combination limb mouth part. They're not really a leg. They're like those little things that are outside. You know when they show like a really gross spider like Shelob or something, and it's going like blah, 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 right next to its mouth.
Hmm.
Those little things.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are horrible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Those are horrible. Also, I liked this part where so Marco gets excited and he starts chasing a bug he wants to eat,
Mhm.
and he says it was a rush, as they used to say in my dad's day. I don't we still say it's a rush sometimes? Like,
Yeah, right. Like I know I'm old, but I would have been young when this book came out.
yeah, it doesn't feel like that's not like saying it was groovy or something. Like,
Yeah.
you could still say what a rush.
Speaking of old things, he talks about his vision being different, and he says it's like when you mess with the color and tint knobs on the TV. Which,
Oh,
now
wow.
that's a throwback.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. That's an
Yeah.
old one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So,
for
you know,
sure.
he gets to be a spider.
Yeah, he gets to be a spider. He tries to, like, kill and eat a beetle. He's, like, letting out his a little bit of his anger, maybe. But anyway, whatever. They're going around, and all of a sudden they see, as a spider, this foot, but because they're spiders, they can see through the hologram and see that actually inside there's this weird metal leg, confirming that Erek is in fact an android. And they and they see another one. In fact, actually, Jake, as a fly, sees another one. So they could have just been flies. They were already flies. Whatever. So there's multiple androids out here, and then all of a sudden, Marco gets eaten. A crow flies out of the sky and swallows Marco, and Marco. Here's your constant fear about public screaming, because Marco starts screaming, and and everyone there can just hear him screaming for his life as he's being swallowed and crushed and digested in the stomach of this bird flying off. So he's like literally dying, right? Like he's fading out. And before he morphs back inside this bird, he rips the bird apart midair by growing out of it, and lands halfway morphed and morphs back to human in a panic. And when he's fully human, he looks up and Erek is standing there looking at him. Um,
Yeah. Now, out of context, when you say I have a constant fear of public screaming, that sounds
no,
like in my daily life, I'm going around terrified someone will scream.
yeah. No, you've brought it up multiple times before on the podcast. What if something happens and I just go, and everybody hears it? I'd be worried. Well, he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, I feel like it would be hard to control your thought speak. So yeah, there it was. I think that
There it
that was
is.
everybody just heard a scream.
Yeah, including all the normal non-controllers who were just up here. Like they
Yeah.
describe a couple like making out somewhere. They're
They probably just assume it was someone screaming somewhere, right? Like,
yeah, presumably. But to be fair, this is probably a blood-curdling scream because Marco just got eaten
yeah.
alive. It's a pretty horrible scene.
Oh yeah, it's just very distressing. In some ways, it actually, in some ways, it sort of made me feel. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. The fact that the bird eats him, and it sounds like within seconds, if he didn't demorph, like he would have just suffocated and been dead. Which was a little bit like, well, at least if you're a spider and you get eaten by a bird, you don't suffer, right? You're
Yeah.
just kind of dead, like pretty quick.
Well, you say at least, but for my personal vor fetish, I would have liked to have sat in that stomach a little bit longer.
There could be some vor stuff. There's some dog petting cuck shit in here. There's some fetish stuff in this book.
Yeah, that's right. We're gonna find the weirdest fucking fetishes. We started with lesbian bug mind control last book, and now we're into weird spider vor.
Oh, I think it started earlier than that. We just may not have highlighted it. Now,
other than the time when I spent an hour talking about having sex with dolphins.
That's not. We're talking about like weird fetishes.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that one's pretty common.
This was the part. So this is where I was referring to Marco's cuteness here. When Marco thinks he's about to die, he basically like his life is flashing before his eyes, and he sees his mother, which he remarks that they say dying soldiers on the battlefield often call out for their mothers with their dying breaths, which doesn't really sound like a Marco thing to say, but he can get kind of deep when he's in a situation.
Yeah, that actually strikes me as a Jake thing, to be honest.
Yeah, or maybe maybe an Axe thing.
Maybe I don't know. It could be.
I guess
I feel like Axe. Not. Yeah, like they I think they would, but Axe would be all like, "But I'm supposed to think of duty or something. Yeah. I feel guilty that I'm thinking of my mother and not my duty or some bullshit."
But he flashes back to a scene of him as like a little kid, and his mom says to him, "You are going to grow up to be so cute, my little Marco." And I thought,
"Aw."
Like this is why he's always talking about how cute he is. It's like his little link to his mom. His mom gave him his self-confidence.
That's sweet. I didn't pick up on that. I like that though.
Yeah, he's a little mama's boy. It's cute. Yeah,
he is a little mama's boy. That's true.
And then right after that, he bursts through the throat of a crow.
Yeah. Like the bird literally rips apart midair. Like you can imagine a guy just like turning into the size of a human inside a bird. It's like shredded.
And you're just looking up in the sky, see a bunch of crows, and just a guy, Ace Ventura coming out of a rhino style.
Yeah. All the other crows in that flock are probably like, "What the fuck? We're not coming back here."
Pretty hot in these crows. He should have said that. When did Ace Ventura 2 come out? I feel like Marco would have said that.
Yeah, I'm sure it must have come out before this.
Marco's definitely a Jim Carrey fan.
Yeah. Now, we should specify for the listeners, even though we are both Ace Ventura and Jim Carrey fans, we don't condone the transphobia in those movies. It's not cool with us.
All right. Now that you've appeased woke culture, let's get back to the book.
Yeah. or we could get back to Jim Carrey. We could just switch this to a Carrey cast if you want.
Ace Ventura 2 is fine. There's no transphobia in that one.
You're
just
right.
Racism.
You're right.
Now, I was happy in this scene because for once them morphing in plain sight has consequences. Although we find out later it sort of doesn't.
Yes.
At least, like, it's for once, it's not just, conveniently he fell behind a tree and everything was fine.
Yeah. But yeah, so Erek does just see him. Marco is like, "I'm human now," and here's Erek looking at him. And this girl named Jenny walks up. It's not even just Erek. Another girl named Jenny walks up, and Erek goes, "So, you know those Andalite bandits we've been fighting? Pretty sure this guy's one of them." And she's like, "Oh, huh." And so Marco's like, "Well, fuck, it's over." But then a bunch of other controllers are coming up, and Erek's like, "Oh, don't even worry about it. There's just some yelling because Jenny hurt her ankle. I got it under control. You can go, whatever." Because it turns out Erek is a friendly android. And he also reveals that he is centuries old. Um, like he says he was at the first ever showing of Hamlet. And 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 he invites them all to meet up later at his house.
You know, normal stuff.
Normal stuff. So yeah, I mean, the android thing's getting a little bit wilder than it was.
Yeah,
I don't. I kind of want to check in on like where were you mentally at this point?
Yeah, I mean, at first I saw the thing and I was like, "Holy shit!" They're just Yerks, you know, as a good casual little reveal there. And then it just got weirder, and I was like, "Okay, they're somehow." I guess I was thinking, are they somehow Yerks who are betraying the Yerk homeworld, and they've found robots to live in? I guess that's what I was. I was still assuming these were somehow Yerk connected. I think.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's not a bad guess. That's the sort of plot line that I would have liked to have seen more of in the series, right? But
yeah, in terms of Yerks aren't being more 3-dimensional.
yeah, in terms of exploring the ideas of like Yerk resistance and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then finding, but then you're like, oh, but yeah, he's immortal or something. He's like centuries old, or
Yeah, well, he's a robot. That's why he doesn't.
right.
But yeah, he's been here since long before the Yerks were a thing.
There's also, by the way, a little, another little censorship skirting here when Marco says, "You have us you have us cold." I like he stops himself from saying anything potentially offensive.
Very Marco. He wouldn't want to offend anyone.
That really feels like that does feel like the K.A. Applegate almost. Like, I feel like in reality he just said you got us by the balls or whatever.
Yeah.
and that was her way of getting around that. Like, he didn't censor himself.
Yeah. Well, listen, once she starts writing Christopher in Everworld, she'll start being able to get away with that shit, and then she really goes the hell off. But
oh, see, now I don't know. This is not an Everworld podcast, so
yeah. No, well, you don't have to ever read that one, but that one's way more fucked up in my opinion.
I'm just gonna say it right now. We're not, I've seen these other Animorphs podcasts, and when they're finished, they just move on to some other K.A. Applegates. We're not doing that shit. This is about Animorphs. We're not reading fucking the one and only Ivan on this show. Okay.
Yeah, if we need to do more K.A. Applegate stuff for some reason, we'll just start a new podcast. This one,
It will be the barf books, whatever those books were.
Right, it will be those, or the dog one, Pupper and
Pupper and Woofy or something.
And Woofy,
yeah. Okay,
That's
Pupper
right.
and Doggo, I think.
Yeah.
Doggo and Pupper. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't. This is not really much really happened. I mean, we find out it's a big reveal, but then we kind of just move on, right?
Yeah. Because we'll really get to it when they get to Erek's house. But first, we do have to do one more scene that's pretty intense here, which is Marco having a barbecue dinner with his dad. So they're hanging out, being their dumb selves with each other, and Marco's dad is talking about his work, and he's now doing work on some classified project with a company called Matcom. And Matcom itself is military adjacent. His work might not be. We don't know, but the company is. And he reveals that Marco's dad reveals he's never done military work before. And the reason, he says, he starts talking about his relationship with Marco's mom. And he says that for the last 1 to 1.5 years of their relationship, he and Marco's mom basically they were the happiest they'd ever been because they had had all these problems, they had always been having fights, whatever, but they all just kind of seemed to stop and everything was going great. And these were the happiest years of his life. And Marco realizes that the reason they stopped fighting was because she actually got infested by a Yerk, which was not interested in domestic disputes. But he says one night during this period, at like 3 a.m., she's like sitting up rather than being asleep, and she says to him, "They won't take you if you don't go into the military." And he said it seemed like the hardest and most important thing she'd ever said. Something about her vibe or whatever, even though it was probably just a bad dream. So he said he'd never done military work because he'd always remembered her saying that before she died. But now he's doing military work. So this is kind of an insane reveal, right? Um, like imagine coming up, like Marco as a kid just being like, "Yep, the happiest years of my dad's marriage were when my mom was a Yerk." And also, it was like a full year and a half, which, remember, he would have been like 10 when she died. This is a huge portion of his life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very dark. And there's a part early in the book where he speculates and he's like, I don't know when my mom was even a Yerk. And so now he knows.
Yeah, now he knows. But I like that it's kind of the opposite of the Chapmans, that her being infested actually made the relationship better because she went out of her way to not cause problems. It's very interesting because...
perfect woman.
That's right. But no, I think it's interesting because his dad still felt loved, which I think speaks something to Visser 1 as a Yerk, right? Like, Visser 1 is a fucking good Yerk. It's too bad she's off dealing with space combat and not running this invasion anymore, and Visser 3's fucking it all up because she can actually run a fucking infiltration.
Yeah, if Visser 3 is in your wife's head, you're not having a happy marriage.
Right, no. Visser 3 cannot make you feel loved.
It's just like, shut the fuck up, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
I don't,
why can't you be a centaur?
It is. Get that fucking cat out of here. No, wait, I like the cat, but fuck the cat. Dog.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Get the dog out.
I'm still suspicious of the cat, though. Put it in a box for 4 hours just in case. I did. It's a little weird because it's not like before the Yerk they were like on the verge of a divorce or anything.
No.
He just says, we used to fight now and then like normal couples is all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not. I don't know if
it wasn't a bad relationship, but
right, yeah. Which I don't know. I feel like maybe that would be more interesting or impactful if it was like we were about to break up or something, and I don't know. That could have been maybe I just want more drama.
That's true. That would be some really good drama if they were just always on the verge of divorce or something, and then the Yerk fixed it. But it is still a fun detail, I think.
Yeah, Marco's dad kind of a little bit like Tony Stark. When he decides not to make weapons anymore.
Yeah, I guess. Only he has to use Marco's friend's nose stuff as opposed to his own brain. You remember Marco's friend No.
Marco's friend No, right? Not Marco's friend's nose.
Oh, yeah.
No, Marco's friend whose name is No.
Right, which was Axe because he said his name was No.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
We also find out in this scene that Marco is a breast man.
Do we now?
Yeah. His dad asks him if he wants another piece of chicken. He says, sure, breast.
Right. Yes. Yeah. You're right. We do find that out.
What? Yeah. I don't, I don't.
Yeah, as opposed to like a thigh.
Yeah. Some people like a thigh. Or like an ass. Sorry.
What piece of chicken do you want? Can I get the ass?
God damn. I did think it's, as a 10-year-old, I did think it's kind of funny that just the fact that there is just a sentence in the Animorphs books that's just breast, period. I'm 10 years old. What do you want from me?
Yeah, I was going to say, when you say as a 10-year-old, you mean right now?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. As I am a 10-year-old boy.
Okay.
That amuses me.
Okay. Good. I'm glad.
Well, it's just like, I feel like that's a piece of trivia. If you were to ask someone like true or false, there's a sentence in Animorphs that is just the word breast. And they might not know. They might think you're pulling one over on them, but there is.
Yeah, I guess. Sure.
I got 10 more minutes on this breast stuff.
Let it all out now.
but
Get it out of your system.
I'm gonna put it aside for the good of the podcast and instead ask the question: what does MATCOM stand for? Is that something computers? Mat? What's the mat? Or am I just reading too much into it and it's just nothing?
Yeah, that is interesting. I'm wondering that. Com could be, I would think communications.
Oh,
but it could be
communications.
computers too.
Yeah.
I know Marco's dad was working on radio telescopes, and that could also imply com, but he does software for communications, but he also does software stuff. I
Yeah.
would think like comp for a computer, though.
Yeah, I don't know. MATCOM. All right.
Yeah, maybe Matt is a shortening of some rude Yerkish word like Datsun.
Yeah, probably is. It probably is.
Yeah, it could be.
They think it's really funny when someone's name is Matt.
I do too.
Yeah. Oh, Matt Damon cracks me up. Okay.
Yeah.
Matt
I guess we could get into what this book is actually about. Because we haven't really gotten to that part yet.
Time for the plot.
Time for what the book is actually doing. So, they all show up at Erek's house. Rachel and Tobias are outside as backup. And just in case something goes wrong, they go in. Erek's dad, Mr. King, lets them in. It's a normal house. They've got TV on. They've got a couple of dogs. He offers them a soda. And so Erek's dad, he takes them down into the basement, and the whole basement is like a secret elevator room that takes them down. And there's like multiple secret walls, and it lets out into a massive underground park. It's basically a dog park. It says literally hundreds, if not thousands of dogs in this park. Okay. And there's a bunch of androids walking around, and they all look like two-legged dog robots. And Erek shows up, and he gives them the backstory of what's going on by way of like an insane like hologram show. He projects this hologram so they can see what happened. And are we ready for the backstory, or do you want to comment on this dog park?
I'll just say this part right here was the part of the book when I was like, we're back, baby.
We sure are back. I'll tell you that. So these androids, they are called the Chi. And they are made in the image of their creators, an alien species called the Pemalites. All right. So the Pemalites were an ancient and extremely technologically advanced race of dog people who loved to play and loved games. They're described as having faster than light travel 100,000 years before the Andalites even made fire. They are also described as basically being Goofy, the dog. Only like 4 feet tall, and they go chuck, chuck, chuck to laugh instead of going yuck, yuck, yuck. And they made the Chi as friends to play with. The Chi means friend in Pemalite, you see. And the Pemalites were very happy playing away, but then everything changed when the Howlers attacked. Okay, we don't know why the Howlers did it, but one day they showed up and just started killing everyone indiscriminately, and they genocided all the Pemalites. So all the Pemalites died by the hands of these Howlers. The Pemalites weren't able to fight back because they were so peaceful and goofy they had forgotten the ways of war. So one ship of Chi and Pemalites escaped, but the Pemalites died anyway because the Howlers had been using germ warfare on them. So the Chi settled Earth and just integrated into human culture because humans at this point had begun to build cities and practice agriculture. And the Chi... they put the souls or something of the Pemalites into wolves, which is where dogs come from, you see. So that's how we domesticated dogs. That dogs have Pemalite souls in them. And that she have been living secretly amongst humans this whole time, aging their holograms up with life and then starting again, and caretaking the dogs on this planet.
They also built the pyramids.
Yes. Well, Erek goes out of his way to say that he was a slave building the pyramids. He didn't design or order them. He just was there, along for the ride.
But that is kind of why, like, they were able to, the people speculate about, like, the heavy blocks and did aliens do it? But it was androids.
It was androids, yeah. He says it was hard for him to hide his strength at that time because he didn't...
I'm fucking crying. I can't. I have tears in my eyes. I mean, I read this. I knew what you were about to say. And I still couldn't. Just hearing it all in a span of 60 seconds is just so fucking crazy.
It is wild. Now, at least it took us like a half or 2/3 of the book to get to this point instead of like the Elemist in chapter 5. As in the most, but it is an equally just completely insane reveal.
Why Kay Applegate just can't help herself. This is she just laid out an entire sci-fi series. This is like an epic of 10 novels. What we just learned.
Yeah, that's right.
It's I don't even like. How can we even begin to analyze this?
Yeah, because like the least crazy thing about this is that we have to cope with the fact that for all of human history, there have secretly been androids living amongst us. Like that's not even talking about the fact that every dog is just like how in Scientology, right? The aliens, Thetans, got attached to us. Or whatever, when Xenu came to Earth. It's this, except that they're good aliens and they were attached to dogs.
It feels a little like, like folklore about how, like, this is why we have like hyenas laugh because, whatever, Anansi the spider and that kind of shit. But, it's like, this is why dogs are dogs, is because they have the souls of extinct aliens inside of them.
And that's almost literally, like, they don't have a good tech explanation for what had happened. They say, like, we grafted their essences onto wolves or something. It's, like, what is that? If this is a sci-fi story, what the hell does that mean? And they just took their souls and put them in dogs.
Yeah. Their technology we don't understand, but they've found a way to, like, qualify what a soul is or
something. Yeah.
They can deal with that. Now, I will say I was thinking I was reading it as Pemalites. I'm not sure which one I like. Or do you know if one of them is correct?
I have no idea. I have always said Pemalite my entire life, but I have no clue which one is correct.
Have you always said Pemalite your entire life?
I read this book when I was single-digit years old, so as far as I'm concerned, yes, I have always said Pemalite my whole life.
I've always said Pemalite. I kind of like both, to be honest. I don't know which one I'm feeling. I was Pemalite. I don't know.
You can use one, I'll use the other.
Okay, the Chi and Howlers.
Yep.
Yeah, we so quickly. It's just the Chi, and then also the Pemalites, and then the Howlers.
Yeah,
and the Howlers are the scenes of. It's like just this genocide. The Animorphs have to watch the full 3D VR screen of them getting genocided too.
They like describe in graphic detail like the bodies of the Pemalites like strewn about and like ripped apart by these Howlers.
He says, he says what Erek showed us next was like one of those horrifying films from World War II, which I feel like is her way of saying it was like the Holocaust, right? It was it's a Pemalite Holocaust.
I was thinking like the aftermath of like D-Day or something, but effectively it is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a Pemalite Holocaust.
Yeah, I was thinking that was like they couldn't quite say Holocaust in the kids' book, but
Yeah.
but yeah,
They
both could be
yeah.
relevant. Yeah, and then there's also like the biological warfare. Did we
Yeah.
get that they? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
don't.
Pemlites who escaped still died because they were using germ warfare. Yeah.
There's so much. I don't really know that I fully understand why the Chi even need to pretend to be humans. I guess they just enjoy it. It's just fun for them to live lives.
Yeah, I guess they just don't really want to be the chi to humans. They're just like, yeah, we're just going to be they were designed as friends. So maybe they were all like, well, if we just show up as robots, we're supposed to look like the people we're playing with. So like, let's look like humans now and pretend to be humans. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it's nuts. They've
Yeah.
evolved in such a way that like it's interesting from the perspective that they kind of lost their purpose they were created for.
Yeah.
And like they're clearly, these are very very advanced androids. Like they're
Yeah.
basically they are well, I don't know. I guess this is a deeper philosophical discussion that could be had, but I feel it's safe to say they are on the level of a human or any other like being with a quote unquote soul. Like, they're not just robots with like AI. They're Skynet. They've evolved to that level.
Yeah, they're always treated as though they are people in these books. At no point is there any question that they're capable of emotions and actual understanding and all of that kind of thing.
Okay, I
Um,
was going to ask, you kind of alluded to it. Part of me wondered if we might never hear from the Chi ever again
oh,
after this book.
oh yeah, I'm sorry. I had actually meant to leave that as a mystery because we don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
they could have never. This is the sort of thing that she could have pulled out and then been like, yeah, it shows up in the other Chi book. I ran out of ideas and wrote another book about the Chi, but other than that, they're not. That could have
Yeah,
been.
I noticed there's no Pemelite Chronicles, which
Yeah,
feels like it's right there waiting for you.
yeah. We'll learn more about the Pemelites, but they don't have a Chronicles. You're right.
Which is kind of a shame, but man, yeah, oh wow, this was a lot. This was, I mean, maybe certainly as wild as the Elemist. I don't know if it's more wild, but they're neck and neck.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a race of silly dog people who only like to play and have forgotten the ways of violence, who are hundreds of thousands of years more advanced than we could ever be. Axe can't even understand how Erek could possibly power himself, and Axe thinks that our best technologies are like tiny little toys. It
Yeah,
just, yeah.
I kind of thought maybe the dogs were their way of also making up for the spiders. Like, let's give them a bunch of cute dogs just
Yeah,
to balance it out.
that's fair. Yeah.
I'm not sure about the Chi naming conventions either. There's one named Maria, but she also says her name is Chi Lonos or something like that.
Yeah, they take human names as they live human lives. So, like, presumably, Eric over the years will age his hologram up and then pretend to die and then take a new name as a kid.
Yeah, but we don't. He only says he's Eric. Like
Yeah,
he
I don't know
doesn't.
that we ever find out Eric's real name
Yeah, I don't
or
know.
any of their names other than Chi Lonos.
Yeah, that's yeah. I feel like maybe just go by Lonos. I don't. I
Yeah.
assume they all start with Chi.
Well, Chi means friend, so that her name is Friend
Mm,
Lonos, you see.
I see
Maybe
that
it's a
now.
title.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no way to like. We just have to keep going. I don't know what more I can say about this barrage of revelations.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Because then they're gonna have a plot for this book too. A thing they have to do. Which, like,
Yeah,
when I remember this book, I remember this next part as being the plot. But you know,
yeah. This is that
for most of the
we're like 3/4 of the way through, and this is that everything we just said is like 10 pages or something.
yeah. Well, wait for the next 10 pages because we're gonna add a whole bunch more on here.
Yeah, let's do
uh,
it.
Yeah, so it turns out that even though the Chi are extremely technologically advanced, right, they are hardwired for nonviolence, right? They are incapable of doing violence even in like abstract ways, like Asimov's like three laws of robotics or something, I guess. I don't know. There's weird. It's not well defined though. Um,
Yeah.
so there's been this rift in the Chi. Erek is a bit of a rebel, right? Because he's been infiltrating the Yerks, which a lot of them don't agree with him doing. Um, but the Yerks, it turns out, Erek has found out, are working on this crazy plan involving Matcom, which is a Yerk company. And it revolves around the fact that the Yerks found this ancient Pemalite crystal. Uh, and the crazy plan, basically, they're going to hook up this computer system to this crystal and they're going to use its computing crystal power to take over every computer in the world. Very dumb, like late 80s, early 90s. I don't understand how computers work kind of
Upload a virus to
supervillain
the
plot.
mothership.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But they're going to use the Pemalite crystal to do it. But what's special about this Pemalite crystal to Erek is that using this crystal, the Chi could rewrite their programming, right, and that would allow them to be violent and therefore fight the Yerks directly. And he wants to do this. They actually spell out their motivations. He's like, if humans were to all die to the Yerks, nobody would take care of the dogs. You see. So it's very important to him that he can, they stood by and watched as the Pemalites died because they weren't able to fight. What is he supposed to do? Stand by and watch while all the dogs die too? No, he's got to fight. So, he wants the Animorphs to go steal this crystal, which is kept in a. Okay, they describe where it's kept. It is a completely dark room. If even a single photon of light comes in, it'll set off all the alarms. There's trip wires randomly throughout the space, so if you hit any of them, it also sets off all the alarms. And there's just an unbelievable number of Hork-Bajir guarding it, so you have to get in to this dark room and get through all the wires without being able to see in order to get the crystal without having to fight the Hork-Bajir. And they don't know how to do it, but Cassie knows, and it's bats. And it feels like this was just some dumb thing that Kay Applegate specifically designed because she wanted to use bats and didn't know how to. She's like, they have to use them. I made up a trap that only a bat can get through. I don't know. But yeah, the other Chi are like super against this, right? Like they're really this Chi Lonos person's like really aghast, right? She's like, how could you even think to undo our centuries, of nonviolence. But anyway, in the middle of this, Rachel comes in. Yeah, Rachel comes in and she's like trying to fight Erek's dad because they've been down there too long, but he's just kind of got her in a full Nelson.
Well, did we say that Rachel was waiting outside the whole time?
Yeah, oh yeah, she was waiting outside in case, I think I mentioned it, but she was waiting outside in case something happened. She busts in and his dad, it's just like restraining her. So it turns out they're really strong. If they could fight, they'd be good. So the Animorphs have to have their little ethical discussion on whether it's okay to do it, and it's actually kind of interesting how those lines get drawn, but they don't spend too much time on it because Marco's just like, well, my dad works for Matcom and they're targeting him, so like, what are you going to say? We shouldn't save my dad, so like, they're going to do it, right?
Yeah. Okay, this is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Now this is where I drew another comparison to Avatar, The Way of Water specifically, because I feel that these Chi are akin to the Tulkun.
They are,
and Erek is a bit like Payakan.
Erek is a bit like Payakan here.
Yeah, they're a strictly non-violent people. Although the Chi have not quite ostracized Erek in the way that the Tulkun ostracized Payakan.
Yeah, it feels like it's like there's a small group of like new thinking Chi who are all like, we need to resist, and like the old guard Chi, I guess they're all the same age, but like other more traditional Chi are like, you can't do it that way or something.
I guess the Chi don't reproduce; they're just the same Chi.
Yeah.
Have always been around. You also didn't mention that this crystal comes from a Dayang trader.
Yes, a Dayang trader who didn't know what he had, but the Yerks knew.
So again, we decided let's throw in another new alien for you. Why not?
Yeah.
You haven't had enough information overload. There's also Diangs, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, that's right. Don't forget about the Diangs.
And yeah, this device, as you said, that will control all computers.
Yeah, I don't.
Which, what even in 1997? What's that even gonna do? I guess probably military is really the biggest thing
Yeah,
at that time. But
yeah, and it's not clear how it does this other than just like it's so advanced that you just tell it to do that and it does it or something. Like, how do the Yerks know? Like, the Yerks know what this is somehow. I guess the Pemalites have been dead since like prehistoric times, so they know it's some hyper advanced tech. I guess they know how to use it.
I don't know. There's a baseline of technology in the rest of the universe that they all kind of use or something. I don't know. It's just like a battery. It's a MacGuffin, is what it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I do really like the way that Erek cranks this Yerk.
Oh yes, yeah.
It's funny as hell. He's like, "Oh yeah. I'll take a Yerk in my head," and then this Yerk's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna infest this guy. This is gonna rule." And it's just in a fucking robot head. It's like, "Gotcha, bitch."
Yeah, which Erek reveals that he can make Kandrona rays himself and just project them internally. So he's got this Yerk trapped in like a steel box in his head and just keeps it there forever. And whenever he has to let the Yerk out, he just projects a Yerk into the Yerk pool.
Which Marco even says, like, that's a little bit fucked up. And I was like, nah, fuck you, Marco. I fuck these Yerks. I don't give a shit.
I think
Fuck
Erek
'em all.
also says that he like taps the Yerk's memory without letting it tap his.
Yeah.
These
So I
androids
guess-
are insane.
Presumably, like, the Yerk might also just be in a sensory deprivation tank. Like, I don't know if he's letting it hear this conversation even.
That's my presumption is that the Yerk he went into what he thought was a brain
Dear
and then he
God.
got trapped in a sensory deprivation chamber.
This is like there's a Black Mirror episode where they create an AI version of a person.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that this person becomes your digital assistant because it's like a copy of you, so it's the best possible Alexa because it knows everything you like.
Sure.
But it's like it thinks that it's you essentially, but it like lives inside a little computer, and it's like to teach it to comply, he just like presses a button and is like, I'm just gonna make it so like 6 months pass, and they're just like stuck in a void forever. And like they're just tortured that way. It's fucked up, and that's what this kind of reminds me of. That you're just faced with nothingness for eons or whatever it is.
Yeah, and Jenny is doing this too, I guess. Jenny or whatever.
Oh wait, who's Jenny again?
The other girl at the sharing who Erek talked to.
Okay, yeah.
Meeting.
But it is funny though. Good prank, Erek.
It is a good prank. It's pretty funny.
By the way, this was also, I was just looking at my notes. I also feel like there's not really enough time to speculate on this because the reveal happens in the same book. But I think if Erek were around longer, you might wonder why Erek is spelled kind of weird, as we pointed out. It's one letter away from the word Yerk rearranged.
That's true. If that didn't come from a contest.
Yeah, Erek really feels like it's a non-subtle clue that this is a Yerk. You know, like it's very funny that just happened to be a guy's name.
That is pretty good. I like that a lot. It's too bad.
Now I wanted to talk about Rachel, but I don't know if you had anything else before the Rachel.
No, go ahead. Talk about Rachel here.
Just Rachel. Well, first of all, why they didn't say that they couldn't thought speak? Wouldn't they have been sending signals to her being like, hey, everything's okay? You know, they didn't have a line like the walls must have been reinforced because we couldn't hear Rachel anymore. So I assume they could have helped her out.
And Axe morphs Andalite, so like they could thought speak back to her. I guess that must have been too far underground, and the underground chi. You know, there's also a city-wide Yerk pool underground here, in addition to this giant dog park.
There's a lot of stuff going on under the city.
Yeah.
So that was weird, but then just the fact that she just turns into a bear and she doesn't just barge in. She like literally breaks through the side of the house. Like
Yeah.
this is just a house on a street in a suburb somewhere. And in
Yeah.
like in the middle of the day.
Well, this is what she did to the cops as an elephant in Megamorphs.
Yeah, but that was like an abandoned house, like in the nighttime. I feel like
Yeah.
this is getting news coverage. A bear broke into a house. Like they're gonna know this is Animorphs and investigate. This seems
The
like a
Chi will
terrible.
use their tech to make the cameras delete the camera footage off the
Okay.
analog cameras they were using.
All right,
At the time.
You're right. That must be what they're gonna do. But
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Rachel, fucking relax.
It is very good, and it is also like interesting because they point out they're like, well, what if your dad couldn't have restrained Rachel without hurting her? And it's like, well, then he would have just had to die.
Yeah,
Like, that's he couldn't he can put her in a full Nelson, but he can't hurt her as a grizzly bear.
Yeah, he would have just died.
Yeah, but these robots are pretty strong.
Yeah, they are. It's a good thing that they're benevolent.
Yes.
It's a little, they are basically Terminators.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's a reason. They don't bring that up as a good reason not to make them violent, but you might consider that. What if
I'm
they
actually
become
shocked.
Terminators?
Yeah, I'm shocked Marco does not make a Skynet reference. He references Schwarzenegger, but not related to the Chi at all. So
That is, yeah, that's true. That is a little odd. Now,
That seems-
the breakdown of the characters against it is very interesting to me because, like, obviously Jake's like, yeah, sure, we'll make that call, and Rachel's like, yeah, of course we make them violent, and Marco's like, yeah, we got to save my dad. That's what you do. And of course Cassie's like, well, no, how could we do that? Like, what do you expect? But it's interesting because Axe is all like, well, okay, so I've been breaking the law of Ciro's kindness, helping you guys, and I'm okay with that because it feels good and it feels noble. But like, of all the reasons to go against my people's tradition and laws, helping make this peaceful species violent, it seems like the worst possible reason. Like, X does not feel good about the idea of doing this.
Yeah, I mean, he'll do whatever Prince Jake does, so he just immediately gets over it. But
yeah, but he does voice objections, which is interesting because I didn't remember that and I wasn't expecting him to voice that objection. And Tobias is kind of, he's not against it either, but he has this interesting point where he's like, yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a predator. I know how it is. You gotta kill in order to survive. And we gotta kill like Yerks and Hork-Bajir in order to survive. That's how it is. But what if it wasn't how it was? Wouldn't that be better? And the Chi have been surviving for hundreds of thousands of years like this. Wouldn't it be good?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I feel like there is some weight to, he says, like, don't you wish Homo sapiens could face the universe and honestly say, we do not kill, we do not enslave, we do not make war.
Yeah. I do like that sentiment. There's a little more like the Chi are also like advanced robots who don't die and like we're programmed to be nice. It's like not a 1-to-1 exactly.
Yeah. Like I said, at no point does anybody say, maybe Cassie would if you pushed her on it, but at no point does anybody say we humans should not do this. Like Tobias's point was more along the lines of what if we didn't have, like we do, so it's not worth thinking about with us. But what if we didn't?
Tobias is saying, imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
Yeah. Well, there's a Chi, so you can. It's easy to imagine they're right there.
Now, I mean, you know how I feel about. as soon as Cassie started in with this moralizing, I was like, fuck off, Cassie. I don't want to hear this shit. Mainly, well, first of all, you're fucking killing Yerks all the time. Like, why is this you're drawing the line? But well, here's the I would understand it if it weren't for the fact that Erek is a Chi already has shown a desire to help and to fight. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they're going in there and manipulating and introducing violence to them. Like they are, at least one of them is willing to, like, wants to make this change. Like you're not like corrupting the species. You know,
That is sort of true, but like you do have to think about like the legacy of it because the story will be if they do this, the Chi never did this until the humans gave them the ability to. Right? Like that is the story.
Didn't they have? Don't they have the ability to do it? They just don't want to without help or something.
No, they literally are incapable of committing violence. They cannot do it even if they want to. That's why Erek needs the crystal.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think some of this, my brain, I was a little bit in a fog from this, all of this new info that was being dumped on me.
Yeah. No. Erek wants to go out there and commit violence to save the world.
Yeah.
But he can't.
Right.
He actively cannot do it. And there is a large contingent of the Chi that hates it too. But like you can also reflect back and think about like what is the Chi's responsibility? Like, yeah, they don't have to commit violence to survive.
But they want to.
But also they do have to commit violence if they want humans to survive, if they want Pemalites to survive, you know? Like isn't there some responsibility to that there? I don't know.
This feels like the Tulkun just being. It feels a little bit like, well, if it doesn't hurt us, then we're not going to get involved. Like, it feels selfish.
Yeah, I could see that. I do think of the Chi as being fairly noble in their nonviolence, especially because Erek is helping them, right? By infiltrating the Yeerks and all that sort of thing, or he wants to help. But if they dwelt more on this particular aspect of it, I'm not sure the Chi come out as the pure good guys here.
Yeah, I feel like also, just for me personally, I don't know that I feel like just the way it's illustrated in the book is what's making me like side against Cassie, but I don't know that in my personal heart, I feel like I maybe have, I don't know if a pacifist streak is the way to put it, but like I could certainly be sympathetic to this idea. Oh yeah, it would be great if none of us fought or killed and had war, and like I can respect people that doesn't do any of that, but just the way it's laid out here in this specific situation doesn't quite sway me.
Yeah, and they certainly don't dwell on this question. Like everybody voices their concerns, but as soon as Marco says, "Well, my dad's on the line," then it's just like, "All right, fine, fuck it."
Yeah, we have to. There's 5 chapters left. We got to wrap this shit up.
Right, absolutely.
Speaking of which,
yeah. So let's start to wrap it up. So they thought they had a week to prepare to do this, but it turns out that they have to go the next night with no prep because Erek found out the Yeerks are changing the security systems and he doesn't know how, which is what happened last book when we needed to advance the plot at the very end because we spent too much time with the skunks. So, okay, so they, Axe and Marco are spiders, the rest morph cockroaches, and they go in through the heating system.
Why don't they just all take spiders? Sorry, it doesn't matter. Go on.
Yeah, I don't know. Nobody, to be fair, John, if you were offered an out to not have to morph a spider and not
but
have to have a spider.
But a cockroach is just as bad to me. They're both, okay. I mean, maybe a spider's a little worse, but they're both fucking gross.
I mean, yeah, but they already had the cockroach morph. If they were like, you want to also have a spider morph?
Yeah, I guess.
I could see you being like, no.
Yeah,
no,
if it meant I didn't have to touch it.
Yeah. But yeah, as bugs, they go through the heating system. It's like the stereotypical heist stuff where they're going through the ducts, and it's there's some shenanigans in there. Like they get chased by a rat. They almost get fried by a furnace. Courtney.
I just thought it might be Courtney.
She moved from the school to Matcom.
Yeah. That's my headcanon.
Yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, they get into the room, they morph bats, they echolocate, woo, they find the thing, and they zip around, wee bats. And they get to the crystal, and they think, wait a second, how the hell do we get out? Because they don't have hands to carry the crystal, and they can't use their mouth because they can't use their echolocation if it's in their mouth. So they go, oops, I guess we fucked up. We'll just have to go battle morphs and fight our way out.
Yeah.
I did not think this through.
As usual. That's pretty par for the course.
Yes.
This may be a good place to talk about. You alluded to it earlier, but this trap, this darkness room,
Yeah.
this weird tech, which is basically Vanta Black. You know about Vanta Black?
What is this? I've heard this phrase.
Vanta Black is this, like, the darkest black known to man that supposedly
Yeah.
some guy invented, or at least he, like, discovered or trademarked it somehow. I don't even really know the science of it, but he, like, owns the color Vanta Black, which is, like, they use it in NASA for something now, maybe. I don't know, but
Mhm.
it's like the darkest dark black that doesn't reflect any light. Basically, it's this crazy thing, and that's, I guess,
Yeah.
what kind of what this
Okay.
is. Uh I don't it seems to me that this crystal would have been safer if they just kept it in Visser Three's desk. like like, I understand they built this elaborate trap, but it's in a room with no one in it and apparently no security cameras.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, like, they have to hook it up, so I can't just be in the desk. But yeah, it does seem weird that they've got like dozens of Hork-Bajir guards,
oh,
and they
is it
all get called
actually
in.
functioning? Is it like doing something in this room?
I don't know if it's doing it yet.
I thought that I just thought this is just like the, the museum where they keep the thing under
Mhm.
glass with lasers around it. I didn't
I
realize it was connected to something.
I mean, I don't know that it is either, but I had presumed that this was where it was going to be. Like this, it's in the Matcom building in this room, so they can hook it up to the Matcom systems or something. But I don't know actually.
Yeah, I mean that makes a little more sense if that's true.
Either way, though, instead of putting it in a room with all these ways to trip an alarm that would bring in all the guards, they could just put all the guards around it. Like I don't.
Yeah, I mean I guess that, like, what else are the guards doing? They might
Yeah,
as well be in there.
I mean, I'll tell you, whatever it is, if they keep doing it, Visser 3 is going to cut off their heads, so they should go in that room.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, it couldn't be that important.
probably. I did think this would be a good Metroidvania game.
Hmm.
It kind of feels like all right, I have to get past this wall, so I need to turn into my spider form. Oh, but now now it's dark in this room, so I need to leave until I unlock Bat Morph and come
Yeah.
back. you
I was
know?
imagining, like, a Mission Impossible with bugs or
Oh,
something as they're
I
crawling
mean,
through the.
they Marco calls it out as Mission Impossible, and it
Yeah.
is 100%.
Yeah.
It's which is fun. I mean, it's very much like a heist from the first Mission Impossible movie. There was another reference in here to. Oh no, I think that's later. So maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. But
Hmm.
I'll just say, but once they're breaking out,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm oversimplifying things, but I just feel like there could have been a way to do this that wasn't just let's break the hell out in our battle morphs. Like, I feel like they could have spent another 5 minutes just thinking of another. I don't know. I feel like there could have been something. Like, they're morphing in and out of different forms in this room, right? So clearly
Yeah.
they're capable of doing that without triggering an alarm somehow, which also I don't really understand.
Yeah. Well, as long as they don't touch the wires or make light, then it's
How do
okay.
they know where the wires are?
They're not around the crystal. They're just in the room. They've got.
Okay.
I think it actually says they have 2 feet of space from the wall to the first wire. So as long as they're like hugged up against the wall, and
Okay,
there's like
sure.
pressure sensors on the floor too, but I guess not right at the crystal. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
somebody couldn't morph into a bird and, like, then they could just, I don't know, guide them as a bat, or morph back into a spider and, like, web from the ceiling and pick it up with your spider legs.
Yeah,
Like,
that is true.
there's
Maybe
got to be something.
the spider could have like webbed it to the bat's back or
Oh
something. Maybe like
yeah,
Spider-Man. Yeah,
yeah.
there's got to be
Put it
something.
on a bird's back even and just, like, hold it. Like, there's
Yeah.
something. There's something. You think for 5 minutes before just being like, fuck it, let's Rambo this shit. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the problem with them having made the plan and then being like, next day we just got to do it. No time to sit with it.
Yeah, every time. They never think these things through.
Yeah.
Um
Which,
it-
like I said, that's like a narrative thing that is maybe it's just because it's these two books in a row, but it feels a bit overused now to just be like, oh, by the way, you have one day. Because I didn't. If
Yeah.
I had made this, if I had said this in chapter 3, you would have had a week. But because I said it in chapter 18, you have a day.
I mean, it is. They do lampshade it in this one. Marco even is like, for once, I thought we'd have a chance to test these out first. Oh well. And also, yeah, when they're demorphing, Marco says, have you ever watched those old war movies where the Americans would be heading for some enemy beach? I just like, did Kay Applegate like just watch Saving Private Ryan or something before writing? Why are there so many like World War II references in this book?
Yeah, when did Saving Private Ryan come out? Was
I
it
feel
like
like
brand new here?
I think it was like 97 or 98.
Yeah,
98. So actually it wasn't out yet, but
okay.
You know, I just was like, what was, it was on the brain for her, it seems, in this book.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel that.
All right. Now what the fuck happens?
All right.
And I really mean that. I'm asking you. What the fuck happens?
All right. So they all go battle morphs. They set off all the alarms. They're like smashing their way out, and they get stopped by, it says 20 people with automatic weapons and 24 Hork-Bajir. The humans can't like shoot because they might hit the crystal and Visser 3 will kill them, whatever. But so they all have to start fighting. There's like dozens of Hork-Bajir, and they're outnumbered, and they can't possibly win. And Erek is outside the window, looking on helplessly as they're dying. And it's like an extremely gory battle. Marco gets kicked so hard in the stomach, his like intestines are coming out. Hork-Bajir stabs him in the heart. He's like literally dying. And with his last strength, with his last strength, he crawls up to the window and smashes his hand through it and gives Erek the crystal, and then he blacks out, and he does die. Canonically, Marco just dies here.
Yeah.
He gives Erek the crystal and dies. And then he wakes up, and everyone is out of the building, and Erek is off in the corner crying. And we find out that what happened was that Erek went in, and within about 10 seconds, he killed every single person in the entire human and Hork-Bajir, all of them. He did it extremely brutally. He just ran in there and ripped them all to pieces. And he restarted Marco's heart, so that's why Marco's alive again. He like reattached Axe's severed arm. And but now Erek is traumatized, and he asks Marco, how do you live with what you've done? And Marco's like, oh, with time things fade, but Erek's an android, so, he can never forget, and those memories will always be fresh in his mind forever because he's immortal. So Erek changes his programming back so he can no longer commit violence, and he gives them the crystal and says, I can still infiltrate the Yeerks, I can still give you inside information, but I will never fight again. So that's what happens.
Now, okay, so this part of the book makes me go, okay, well, I can sort of, from this side of it, now see the argument of not wanting to, corrupt these people into violence. It clearly has a heavy toll on Erek.
Yes.
At the same time, who told Erek that he needed to brutally murder everyone by ripping them apart? There was no other. He's an extremely advanced, very strong robot. I feel like he could have just like knocked him out, or at least like, if he's going to kill him, not like rip them into shreds or whatever horrible shit he did. Like, yeah, of course that's going to traumatize you. There could have been a slightly less horrible way to do this.
I do think that Erek has just doesn't really understand violence at all. He was just like, yeah, that's like what you do to solve problems. It'll be fine, whatever. Like, he just doesn't, at some level, he didn't comprehend what the hell was up. So he was just like, yeah, I'll just go in and, we'll stop him. And oops, I brutally murdered everybody.
Well, you'd think after like the first couple, he'd be like, oh, I guess I don't need to, I could dial it back a couple notches.
Well, they say he did it all within about 10 seconds.
Yeah, he just fucking annihilates everything. Like, yeah. He Darth Vader in that Rogue One scenes.
Yeah,
all of them.
That's right. With a lot more blood.
Yeah. So, but okay, You do you, man.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. It is kind of interesting how they like pose this ethical question: should we help them fight or not? And then immediately, like, it doesn't. Instead of dwelling on it, they just kind of immediately answer it. Oh, he did it, and now he's fucked up forever, so they're not going to do it. The end.
Yeah, it's a little. It feels like there's a bit more nuance you could explore here.
Yeah, yeah, just in and out.
But it is what it is. I did also notice that Marco describes Hork-Bajir as death on 2 legs. And earlier, he also describes his spider morph as death on 8 legs. So that's another little phrase that was rolling around K. Applegate's head at this time.
Marco likes his death on legs.
He sure does. He sure does.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess Axe is death on 4 legs. All right, continue.
Oh, you're right. You're right. No, they bring up an interesting point about Erek here, where they ask the question: is Erek intentionally making his hologram cry and look sad to match his emotional state, or is that a subconscious action? And Marco does not know this.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a fun little detail. I liked that.
Just another fun little thing that could be the spark for an entire novel.
Just a fun.
Just a little side note. Whether or not androids can feel emotions and if they're putting on a show or what that means.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly can feel it. I just don't know if, like, does he intentionally show it or unintentionally show it?
Gotta think. I mean, he's been an android or he's been playing as a human for like millennia or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe it sunk in.
Yeah, and this battle scene here, there is like a page-long description in here of Marco strangling a Hork-Bajir to death. It's a pretty gruesome scene, even by Animorph standards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough. It's real brutal.
Rachel opens up a Hork-Bajir, quote, like a fish being gutted, unquote.
Oh, yeah.
Says Cassie has red foam flying from her mouth.
Jesus.
By Animorph standards, even, it's a pretty intense scene.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. I've finally, I think, started to become desensitized to the level of violence in those scenes, but
at a certain point, it's just so much. But yeah,
they really don't hold back.
This is also the first time we've seen an Animorph die.
Yeah, full on dies. He flatliners.
He flatliners. He sure does.
Is that what that movie's called? Doesn't
there
matter.
Is a movie called that, right?
Yeah, they like die and come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, that's basically the book. There's just a little wrap up where Jake and Marco are playing on the beach with Homer and some other dogs. You know, Erek gives them this secure, untappable phone number so they can call him for info in the future or whatever. And Marco gives Homer the Pemalite crystal, and Homer loses it in the surf playing with it. And it's it's kind of implied that maybe some like Pemalite soul within Homer the dog like knew what it was and what to do with it or something in a weird way. It's odd. It's an odd sort of thing for like, why didn't Marco just get rid of it or destroy it? He gave it to the dog. I don't know. The dog lost it.
Why? I kind of understand. It's like it's too powerful, so we don't want it to ever fall in the wrong hands or something. Mm-hmm. It feels like you keep this thing. They didn't even have a discussion about it. It wasn't like, let's get together as a group. What should we do with this? Should we destroy it? Should we hide it? Should we try to use it? Nah, they're just chilling at the beach. Marco's got it in his pocket. You know, he just threw it in there like a jelly bean. Just like, let me just throw that in my pocket. And, let me give it to Homer. Have fun, boy. Like, what the fuck happened here?
I mean, this is why I'm saying it almost feels like it's implied that this is that it's like, oh, you give it to Homer because that's the right thing to do because Homer will do whatever the Pemalites would have done, and they're the proper, like, they don't explicitly say this, but that fefeels thematically like what she's trying to do in this scene.
I think you're right, but
it's just an odd thing. Yeah.
it's logically nonsense. Like he's a fucking dog. He doesn't know. I'm surprised he doesn't just swallow it. I don't.
Maybe he did. They don't. They say he ran out in the surf with it and then it was gone. Maybe he ate it.
And then
We
Marco's
don't
like,
know.
"Yeah, maybe it'll wash up somewhere someday." Yeah,
I'm sure that's fine.
Hope the Yerks don't find it. Like, it's just fucking.
In 50,000 years, a dying trader, whatever, will be scouring Earth and find it, and it'll be back on the market.
Yeah, I guess so, man. Get your shit together, you Animorphs. Good God. All right.
Yeah, that's the story.
Now, I don't know if it comes off this way in every episode because part of the fun is picking these things apart.
Yeah.
I don't know if it sounds like I don't know if I gave the impression or not that I didn't like this book or something, but I like this book a lot.
Yeah, same. I feel you on that.
I like the insanity of it, I like how fucking crazy it is.
For sure. Yeah, and I definitely get that because I'm absolutely being like, what the fuck are they doing? But I love this one. This is a top tier book. I love Pemalites. I love the Chi.
Yeah,
They're great.
Yeah, it's awesome. They are.
I
It's
want my Pemalite Chronicles.
unbelievable that that's all in there. Like, it's just there. It is. Holy shit.
It sure is all there. Yeah, and I love it when Animorphs does something just absolutely crazy out of nowhere, which, we get more. But
I
those are the
can't
top
even
tier
imagine.
books.
Yeah, I don't. I'm like, how do they can't do this again? How can they keep doing this?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
like it'll be a while before we get something this crazy, but this is not the craziest book in the series.
Okay.
Ignoring the Chronicles, which all like that, throw it all out the window for what you think a book can do in terms of craziness. It's a new level.
Can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I guess we can. I mean, I will mention there's one goof / inconsistency on Seropedia
Let's hear this goof.
that I think is pretty dumb, which is, oh, actually, no, actually, this is fair. I misread this earlier. Erek says the word Animorphs at one point, even though nobody told him that word. But doesn't Visser 3 know that word, or does he not know it?
No, he just calls them Andalite bandits.
Oh, yeah. I thought at some point maybe one of them was like, "We're the Animorphs, dude." But maybe not.
Yeah, and that wasn't suspicious to Visser 3 because he's a moron.
But anyway, there's that. There's that.
That's a good. You know who I think really probably likes goofs a lot? Is the Pemalites.
They probably do.
They love goofing around.
I still am not, like, they describe the Pemalites as two-legged dog-like creatures.
Yeah.
Is there an illustration of a Pemalite somewhere? I want to know.
Not in this book, but maybe.
I'm afraid to Google it because I don't want to spoil anything, but
they probably. I mean, to be honest, I like alternatively imagine them either as like literally Goofy the dog, or as like that one character from Akewood, the like dog guy.
Oh, I found some. There's some fan art.
Okay,
just looks like a dog furry.
Yeah, I'm sure they're probably more intended to be dog furries, but
yeah, it just looks like an anthropomorphized dog just standing up on its legs, like Brian or something.
Yeah, I mean that's not that far off either. And I do want to circle back to the fact that they laugh by going chuck 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 because I think that's important.
Yeah, and also the Chi look like dogs.
Yeah, the Chi just look like robot versions of the Pemalites, I think.
Yeah, which I wasn't really picturing that way. Them that way, I don't think. But yeah, that seems to be where the fan art has done, is they're just robots of dogs.
Yeah, they are supposed to be robot dogs, and in several points here, they do mention that they have like dog faces in the park. They say when Marco first sees the leg through the hologram as a spider, he says it looks a little bit more like a dog leg with like the weird like ankle knee backwards thing and a paw instead of a foot or something.
Dear
like
God.
this.
This sounds like this is what the kind of shit that I like made up when I was like 8 years old. It was just like a crayon with some paper and like, these are the aliens. They're called the Splangos. They came from planet Splapo, And they, and I was Justin Roiland also as a kid.
I had a whole series as a kid of aliens. I had made up a planet. I don't remember what it's called, but the gimmick of the planet was that every species on the planet had one leg and hopped around on it. So I had made like dozens of
Wow.
one-legged aliens. I remember one time I
Wow.
made like a one-legged snake because I thought it was funny to add legs to get a one-legged. It...
That's funny.
I don't know.
I mean, if
But
we're going to get into it, I had a race of aliens when I was a kid. They were called the Ubus.
ooh, yeah, I want to hear
I,
about the ubus.
I had a very specific. I could still draw one today. They had eyes. They were probably inspired by Animorphs. They looked like they had bunny ears, and they had eyeballs on the tops of their heads without stalks, just the eyeballs. And they were striped, but they stood upright like humans, but they had no mouth, like an Andalite didn't have a
Mhm.
mouth.
Sounds like
Yeah.
a kind of Andalite-ish for sure.
Yeah, they didn't have hands or feet. They just had legs, probably because I couldn't draw hands or feet.
Right, of
And
course.
they came from the planet Bananas, and they had to leave their home planet because it was there was an evil race called the Galukis.
Ooh.
And they were like big green guys, and they smothered their planet in blankets.
That's pretty good.
That was how they. And I had a whole. It's so stupid that you made me talk about this.
Yeah. No, this is good. We almost were going to finish on time, but now we got to talk about the ubus.
Oh, it was gone a while ago. I knew it was
Okay.
hopeless. It's time to talk about the pop culture references.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to the ubus next time.
And it's a Marco book, so you know that there's a lot of them.
There are a lot here.
Okay. Rachel as Xena Warrior Princess. I'm only going to bring that up once per book.
Yeah, I think multiple mentions of it don't really need to be. Well, there's one multiple mention I need to bring up. You'll see. But,
okay, we'll get there.
Yeah.
We mentioned Nine Inch Nails, Alanis, and Offspring.
Mhm.
Who they just call Offspring. Isn't it the Offspring?
I
guess
I thought it was.
it is. They're just so cool that they call them Offspring, I guess.
Okay.
Stephen King meets Anne Rice creepy.
Mhm.
Marco describes something as morph spiders.
Yeah, morphing probably.
As you said, there are deadheads at the concert, which is a weird a weird call out for kids aren't going to know who the Grateful Dead are reading this book.
Yeah. No, you're right. No 13-year-old is saying like, "Oh, look at all the deadheads at the concert." That's a
strictly
boomer
for the
saying
Gen
that.
X, or whoever. Is she a
Or-
boomer? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it could be Gen X too, but
Also people trying to look cool in their Dockers.
Mhm.
They also mentioned oh yeah, he also says that Jake will go to the concert because he's not 40, which I thought was funny. Anyway, he references that old song, "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," which is what dogs say.
Yeah. Now there was one that you skipped here that I wanted. I wasn't sure if you were going to put it in.
Okay.
They reference the dumpsters.
Oh, and now I did. I almost brought this up in the beginning, but yeah, I did notice the dumpsters.
Okay, but yes, girls just want to have fun.
Which, to be clear, dumpsters is capitalized.
Mm-hmm.
You can listen to the last Marco book to learn more about the dumpsters if you haven't listened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He says Rachel looks like one of those girls from the cover of 17. He also says she looks like one of those terrible elf maidens in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings.
This has to be Galadriel, right? Like, which other terrible elf maiden from Lord of the Rings specifically, and not like Silmarillion, is this?
Yeah, now this is a departure from before when they just said from that Tolkien book or something.
Yes.
Or something out of a Tolkien book. This is specifically Tolkien's Lord of... So you don't get confused that it's someone else's The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and it is, the movies hadn't come out yet. So Marco is going off of the books here.
For sure.
Yeah.
Maybe he was a big fan of the Ralph Bakshi cartoons.
Yeah. Marco is the type.
He says Cassie does not subscribe to Teen or YM, which is Young Miss. I don't know. That's some teen magazine. YM. I don't know what that is.
Youth something?
Sure.
Youth magazine, let's say.
Yeah. Well, let's say that. Something about asking Einstein if he knows how to add 2 plus 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Saying how smart someone is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Einstein also gets multiple references
Yeah, there's
this
2
book.
Einsteins references. Rachel says that she wants to go look for clues and then says, wow, that sounded so Nancy Drew.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're still in chapter like 3 here.
Yep. Of course, they're going to look Erek up in the phone book, and Marco says, does Wolverine look things up in the phone book? Does Spider-Man?
All right, so I have to stop you on this one.
Please do.
In my book,
Yeah,
Spider-Man was hyphenated here.
I had the same thing.
Okay, because there was a line break. So I read it and I was all like, did she learn or was this a happy accident?
Now, is the
Now,
M capitalized?
oh, I don't think it is. Because I know that um, later on she
does
uses
it
Spider-Man a
later.
lot and she does not hyphenate it, yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah, so maybe I just got ahead of myself seeing that hyphen, and I should have
I
just
thought the
checked the
same
M.
thing. Yeah, but I don't know. My formatting is different than yours.
Yeah, no,
So,
I wasn't sure if you were going to have it because of that, but
yeah, that's why I thought it might be a mistake in mine. So, yeah, who knows?
yeah, no, it's just it happened to hit a line break.
May
It
it be
just
a line break every time in the future.
yeah.
Okay, Rachel says her dad is taking her and her sisters to Planet Hollywood.
Hmm.
You ever go to Planet Hollywood?
I don't think so.
I think they're either gone or there's like one left, but they used to like they were in Orlando, like any big touristy city.
Yeah,
It was just a shitty like TGI Fridays, but it was like Hard Rock Cafe, but they had
sure.
memorabilia of Hollywood on the walls. I loved it as a kid. I thought it was great.
I remember them being around, and I remember them not seeming very interesting to me. But
It's also, by the way, very much the place a divorced dad will take you. Like
had her
that's
finger on the pulse there.
that's the place. You know how on Star Trek the aliens are always just humans with a little nose putty and some bad outfits?
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Well, and not Andalites, but anyway, there's a Star Trek reference.
There we go.
Cassie says Charlotte's Web is one of her favorite books. Yeah, big surprise. I think Marco says that. That's more Spider-Man. He says that his spider legs sprouted out all Gumby, unformed.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Now
like
there's another one in here
Gumby,
too. Oh yeah. Like Gumby, the
like Gumby. But what is that? Like they're
but
like
unformed.
clay-like
I guess
or
so.
or something.
Like, I mean, Gumby unformed is clay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like clay.
Yeah. Now there's
I,
another one in here too. Uh,
Another Gumby?
no, another reference
This is
here.
going to be our longest episode, I think.
It is, yeah.
How did that fucking happen?
There was a lot of Pemalites. But and Ubus. But Marco talks about TWA, Travel with Animorphs, which is a reference to Transworld Airlines, which ended in 2001.
Oh, see, I did not. I just thought that was a made up acronym. Did you
Yeah,
know that
see,
was a thing or you looked it up?
I saw that and I was like, TWA is a real airline, right? I swear to God it is. And so I looked it up and I was like, okay, it just hasn't existed since 2001. It wasn't.
Wow.
It wasn't September 11th. They were bought out in January.
Thank God.
Which I wondered maybe.
Oh, well.
Oh well. Anyway, yeah. Continue past Gumby here.
Yeah, let's try to get through the rest of these
Finish
quickly.
it off.
What's his name again? Erek is wearing a Nike shoe, or somebody was. I thought it was Erek. Maybe it was someone else.
Probably Erek.
I guess he quotes Hamlet, of course. There's a TV on mute in Eric's house showing, quote, pictures from CNN. Pictures. I don't know why it's phrased that way, but that's
Odd,
what's
yeah.
happening. He compares some trees to pink Brillo pad trees.
Mm-hmm. There's also Wheaties in Eric's place.
Oh, shit. I didn't write that one down. I forgot the Wheaties. Yeah, there's a box of Wheaties.
Wheaties, Brillo trees, yeah. There's a lot in this book.
Somebody could turn a Toyota into an aluminum can.
Mm-hmm.
After he gets to be Spider-Man, now Marco's excited he gets to be Batman.
Mm-hmm. And he also talks about kibble.
Kibble is a reference?
Isn't it?
I thought that was just a generic term for dog
I thought
food.
kibble was a brand.
That might be a
You know what?
Kleenex
It's not
thing.
capitalized. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I think that's just generic.
I guess I've just been wrong about that.
Yeah, it's not canine crunchies.
Yeah.
Something out of Mission Impossible, more Spider-Man, more Albert Einstein, more Spider-Man. It was like a Roadrunner cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
We get, of course, the Star Wars reference here. Abandon yourself to the Force, Cassie Skywalker. To which Cassie replies, thanks, Darth. You first.
Yeah.
This reads like someone who's never really watched Star Wars.
Yeah, I was gonna say, she's no Star Wars fan wrote this.
It's clearly a Trekkie only. Okay, Applegate.
Yeah.
Now, I said they went full on Rambo, but Marco actually says they go total Schwarzenegger at the end.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's when that happens. And then finally, my final one is he later ran into Erek at the 7-Eleven.
Yep. The only other question I had was, I don't know if... Here's another one. I don't know if it's a generic term or a brand name that became generic. Is a Frisbee a brand become generic like Kleenex, or is it just a thing?
I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was generic, but that could be a thing that started as a trademark.
Well, they have one of those too.
Well, we're going to need the listeners to let us know. Questions for the listeners this week. What's a brand name and how do you pronounce Pamolite?
Yeah.
Please email us.
Did you finish the episode?
Yes, just confirm. Are we alive? Did you make it to the end? You can email us at theyerkyboys@gmail.com or tweet at us or follow us on Twitter at theyerkyboys on Twitter. And you can follow me on Twitter at Quentz, or for some reason you could, if you want, listen to my other podcast, which is called Geeks on Trial, available on YouTube or all podcast platforms, wherever you get them.
Wow. And you can follow me on Twitter at DogTimesMcGee. Thanks everyone for listening. Tune in next time when we'll be discussing Book 11, The Forgotten, in which Jake turns into a jaguar on the Yerky Boys.